Hey everyone, welcome to the Jonesin 4 show. Today, just like all the other episodes, we have a killer episode here for you. I have my good buddy Jameson Redding, the filmologist, film extraordinaire, kayak fisherman. He travels literally the world to go after his passions of kayak fishing and helps people catch fish, get on fish, and just have fun doing it. And he captures all those memories through the lens, as well as making his own memories, catching them and sharing those things. Jameson, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's awesome to catch up.
Definitely. We met years ago, actually, when we were working for a company, a website forum where we went to ICAST, one of the largest fishing expos in the world. And we met and we were doing some work for them, and we got to know each other really well. And then we hung out at Boondoggle, which is kayak fishing get together, just a whole bunch of crazy guys having fun and gals getting together.
Yeah.
And you actually caught a jack, if I remember
Well,
correctly, that dragged you like a mile offshore.
Yeah. And you guys stayed with me. That was what was so awesome. Like I hooked this giant Jack Crevalle on top water, and I did not have the appropriate gear to really put pressure on it. Plus I was on a lightweight paddleboard, and I couldn't do anything with it. And it drugged me forever. And you guys just all paddled and stayed. There was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of you guys that just hung out with me the whole time, which made it even that much more crazy. And also that much more dramatic when I had it right by the boat and was trying to lift it, and it finally wore through the fluorocarbon leader and came off. So you guys felt my pain.
It was an amazing adventure. I still look back on those days. Like I remember breaking the floral leader, and I mean, we were paddling out there for, I think it was an hour. It dragged you around.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, for me, it was about a half-hour paddle back because the wind, of course, decided to come against us. But it was just 4 or 5 of us hanging out, enjoying each other's company, and just having a blast, chasing our passions, doing those things.
And then you get to go around the campfire and reminisce about how bad that sucked.
Oh man, it's so heartbroken. I mean, all of us, I think one of the fun memories I have is, I've been on many adventures, but I haven't done it with a ton of people. It's usually solo trips, or maybe me and my brother-in-law going out. But then with you and our crew that we were out there, man, you were holding on this fish, and this is dragging you, just like, all right, I'm going to go on my phone here. I got to answer some emails, take pictures of the fish, go live, and we're taking pictures and videos for you. And it was cool to see the whole effect, of friends that was coming together and doing that. And
I think that's the biggest thing about traveling. What I enjoy the most about it, it's not like, I do enjoy going to new places and catching fish, but if I let that get in my way, I've got to catch this fish because I'm only here. And this happened to me in Panama, but I kind of lose sight of what really is fun about traveling. And it's the community and the people that you get to hang out with and meet that like you and I wouldn't have met otherwise, So it's like you meet so many lifelong friends that even if you don't talk to them in a while, you can just pick back up where you left off. Or if you're traveling through, you can hit the water together or hang out, grab a beer, whatever. And I've just met so many really close friends over the years through traveling and kayak fishing. It's been awesome.
It's amazing the friends you pick up when you chase your passions, whatever that is, and the community that you build. It's nothing like it out there at all. So, we talked a little bit about fishing. We'll get into fishing and your adventures here in a little bit and stuff that you've done, but tell us a little bit about you. So my listeners may have heard about you, may not have. Let them know, who is Jameson Redding?
I don't know. He's just a guy lives in the middle of nowhere in Rhonda, North Carolina. I'm sure you guys can Google that, but it's the northwestern part of the state. And I grew up here and then moved to Florida after high school, met my wife. Really, that's when the passion for fishing, I think, took off. I started doing some fishing with her dad and inshore for trout, speckled trout and redfish and flounder and that kind of thing. And moved back here and tried to figure out how to get in the river. So I got into the kayak fishing thing to be able to access rivers locally here in North Carolina. And just really got passionate about that, but then realized the community was there. So started traveling and kind of quit the day job of managing or helping my dad manage his fence company and started trying to figure out how to make a career out of doing something in fishing and kayak fishing, which ended up being holding the camera for the most part, which I also now am passionate about that too, making sure I capture the shot and just try to retell the story as you see it and share it with others. And but yeah, that was like, I don't know, 7 or 8, probably 8 years ago. And since then, had 2 kids, got a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old little boy. I mean, 2-year-old little girl now. So 4-year-old boy, 2-year-old girl. And they're crazy. Luckily, my wife is nice enough to get them out of the house for this, because you'd be hearing them every second. But yeah, still doing it. Still trying to stay around what I'm passionate about every day. So
Well,
that's me in a nutshell.
awesome. Well, please tell her thank you for, holding the kids back here so we could have
Yeah.
an interview and you could share all your great knowledge with us. What Yeah, I love that you're chasing your passions, and we've heard of people who, quit their day jobs and just chase their passions. But for me personally, and yes, I'm on the younger side of life. I'm 34, but with that, like, you have to be one of the first people I have known personally to have just quit your day job and nope, I'm going to chase my passions to the max. And you have helped encourage me and inspired me, knowingly or unknowingly, to do the same with what I do with Jonesin. Like, I love teaching choir, I love being in the classroom, but there was more to it. There was more calling. I love doing that, but now it transitioned into what I'm doing now with helping
Yeah.
people chase their passions to the max through Jonesin. So thank you so much for that.
Well, that's awesome to hear, man. I'm glad that it's always nice to know you're an encouragement to someone and not a discouragement to someone, for sure. I'm sure I've been both.
Well, huge encouragement on my end. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
that. So what led you to stop your day job, working in your father's business, to chase your passions of fishing?
You know, it became a thing where you go into work every day, and I didn't dislike my job at all. I got to work with my dad, and yeah, that has its issues here and there, but for the most part, like when I was younger, we definitely butted heads more. But as I was older, we relied on each other, and so that was one of the hardest parts, I think, of the whole thing was, that inner struggle. Like, I don't want to disappoint him. He's probably thinking that this is what I want to do forever. It's his business. He's had it for over 30 years. And, my struggle was like, you know, turning my back on him or leaving him. So I
Mm,
struggled with that. But, what I ended up, realizing is that every day that I'm here, I'm like literally taking mental breaks to plan that next kayak fishing trip, or, adventure. And I had got out enough to meet some people that were, just really passionate about kayak fishing. I think I had been to a boondoggle, which was like 400 people that all love kayak fishing. You're just like overwhelmed with the community. And then, I had started traveling for some IFA redfish tournaments, and I did that really just to get back to fishing inshore, because here in the mountains, like, we don't have redfish, obviously. So as much as I love catching smallmouth bass in a river, I love it. I really wanted that excuse to like travel and see some new places and fish for, redfish. And so I did that IFA tour for a couple of years, and again, just met a lot of people and started just getting more involved and trying to like, I mean, I went through every like possibility. Like, should I start a kayak shop? Should I start renting kayaks? Should I try to guide? Like, what can I do? What does
mhm.
this industry have that I could figure out a way to place myself in it? And actually, Drew Gregory and Brooks, Betty from Jackson. Brooks was the team manager at the time, and Drew was kind of like, the face of Jackson Fishing, and had helped design some of the boats. And so I met up with those guys, and they had kind of a need for, a camera guy. And so that was kind of where it started, and, just kind of grew from there. And I was basically taking time off work, which my dad was very gracious with me, to go do those things. If an opportunity arose, I think one of the first ones was like, Drew was like, "Hey, we're going to the Keys. We can't really pay you, but it's a free trip to the Keys." I'm like, yeah. And I had just got back from like a vacation, going to a boondoggle. And so I told my dad, I'm like, oh, I need to do this. Well, then like a few months later, same thing. Drew's like, hey, I'm going to California. If you want to come take some photos, I'll pay your way. But it's not really a paying gig. I'm like, I need another week off. So I just kept doing that. And finally, my dad and I just had that conversation, and my dad is very passionate about running, which sounds crazy. I know you are very passionate about fitness as well. So you probably understand. I have no like passion when it comes to fitness. I do it. I try to exercise. I try to ride bikes, and just so I can keep up with my kids, but it's just not something I'm like super pumped about. Usually I'd rather be out fishing or hunting. But anyway, my dad just said, if I could have figured out a way to make a living running or around running, if I could go back, I would do that. So he told me, the business is here. It's going to be here. Like, I'm not going to sell it to someone or whatever if you ever want to come back. And so to me, that just green lit it, And so luckily my wife had just finished nursing school and was willing to pay the bills for a little while I tried to, and it just, you start out 500 a month, and then you're figuring out a way to make 1,000 a month, and you're picking and trying to like work with more than one company. Like, what do you need? I'll do this for you. And you stretch yourself too thin, but you just start building a little bit of a reputation. You start building a little bit of income, and finally you figure out a way to do it. And I ain't gonna lie, it ain't easy. And there's plenty of times. In fact, I remember one time actually filming an episode. I had that little show for Yak Angler for a while called Yak Angler's Inside and Out, YouTube show. And I was on a trip to film, and I had like literally I was pulling a camper. All 4 tires on the camper blew at some point on the trip. So one would blow, and then the next one would blow. Come to find out, they were just underrated for the weight of the camper, and it's what came on it. But it was like once one blew, I'd replace it, and then the next one. So like all 4 tires blow. I got an oil change while on the trip, and they left the oil cap off my truck, and I drove like, I don't know how many miles, and there was like oil all inside the compartment of my new Tundra. And so that happened. And then like I finally get there, and I'm like set up, and I'm like finally like relaxing a little bit, and we're on the way to the water, and a car like comes over my lane and sideswipes my new truck. I'm just like, I'm throwing my hands up, and I think it was like 2 weeks before that, somebody tried to break into my truck. So I had just spent like $700 repairing my windshield and door where they had pried on it. And my wife just tells me, she's like, maybe it's time you hang this up, because I wasn't making enough money to cover all what I just broke. Like that was like 2 months worth of pay that just went out the window. She's like, and I remember telling her like, I want to say that, but I want you to tell me not to quit and just keep telling me to go. And she did. She kind of turned that. She's like, no, you're right. And so from then on, she's been very encouraging and helped me go. But yeah, that was a moment when I was like ready to almost throw in the towel. But it took her telling me to throw in the towel to kind of flip that switch in my mind and go, no, I'm not going to do that. Quit telling me to do that. I'm going to keep this going. And then, so now she's, the other way around. She's telling me like, maybe she's hoping I'll quit because she's doing the reverse psychology thing. But no, it's hard because once you become involved in doing something that you're passionate about, the money is no longer, you need it and you have to think about your family, but it is the biggest pain in the butt for me to have to worry about. Like, it's the only stressful part about your job, because you don't need the money like to do it because you want to do it,
right.
But you need the money to live. So you got to justify like, how much time am I going to spend doing this before it's costing me,
right.
My family and cause they're the most important thing. But, it definitely is something that, you have to kind of push through. And if you just keep on, I feel like eventually something's going to happen, and it'll work out.
Yeah, I mean, so many people put the pressure on the money, and yes, you need it to live. Yes, you need it to be able to continue doing life and providing for your family. But
Right.
if it's not fulfilling for you, if you're doing that in a day job, or a job that you're just always taking daydreams or always wanting vacation about to chase your passions, if you can make it, it's huge. And I'll say, your wife is amazing to have that support. or to support you like that, even saying you should quit, and that flips a switch, and now she's super supportive. I'm incredibly blessed and lucky. My wife is extremely supportive of all the adventures, of all the kayak fishing adventures I've taken, traveling cross country, doing crazy fitness things like a half Ironman. She's always been there to say, no, you love it, go do it. It's all
Yeah.
good, you know. And so having that support system is huge, whether it's a spouse or a family member or friends. That makes all the difference in the world.
Right. And, you know, I think sometimes you have people that are like, I don't have a clue what you do. You know, they look at you and you're like, I know you're doing something because you're still doing it, but I don't know what it is. And I think my parents are probably a little bit like that. I mean, they know I'm involved in the everyday, but, you know, I think sometimes because I do work from home, they're like, is he working today or just, you know, hanging out at the house? And, but it's definitely, you have to have that support group, because otherwise you go through those moments, and it's back and forth. I mean, there's days when they're the ones that are discouraged and you're like, no, it'll be fine, we're going to get through this. And then there's the other days when you're the one that's like, I don't know, this is probably a bad decision and I
Mm-hmm.
should just go. And I mean, you make bad choices sometimes. Like, I know for me anyway, like I've worked with brands and thought it was going to be a really good gig, and it didn't pan out. And then you worry like, well, did I turn down this opportunity, or did I, you know, is that gone now because I took this chance? So, you know, you can't really turn opportunities down as much, you know, like you have to just kind of like say yes and stretch yourself thin, and then you kind of figure out where you fit in the best. And
When you get to learn from those experiences, you know, experiences that don't go so well, or you thought was going to be a great thing and it just worked out. Okay, it didn't work out that way, or didn't work out at all, and you can take those experiences and learn from them and improve for next time.
right, exactly.
For sure. So you've quit your job. You're working on your own passions, chasing them, doing photography and filming for these different trips. And then so we worked together when you were still doing all that. And then shortly after we went to ICAST together at the expo,
Hmm.
and hung out at the Boondoggle. You had your son, you had your daughter, and then I mean maybe it wasn't short. It seemed short. It was a quick time to me,
I
but
know.
then you went on this huge road trip with your family. Was it, you said, like 9,000 miles, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It was like, I think if you just mapped it out, it was a little over 8,000. But of course, you got zigzags along the way,
No, of
visiting
course.
people. But so when my son, so I had the travel trailer, which I think you may have seen. I can't remember if you stayed at one of the boondoggles or saw it one of the
Yep.
boondoggles, but it was definitely more garage than camper. And when the
Mm-hmm.
family came along, um, you know, it didn't make sense anymore for that. And also, my style of traveling is, boondoggles are different. You go, you park, you stay there for a week, and then or however long, and then you leave. But most of what I do is you know, you're there for a day or two, and then you're traveling. So you spend a lot of time between locations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard with a travel trailer to like set it up in a Walmart parking lot and be ready to sleep in it, especially if you've got a kayak trailer rolled up inside the sleeping part, and you got to like unroll it and hook a generator up and everything. So we started playing with the idea of getting a motorhome when my wife was pregnant with my son, and then he was born shortly after that. And we decided to pull the trigger on a motorhome. And we actually worked with Winnebago a little bit at the time and did some video work for them. And another one of those things that if I'd had just more time, I could have really probably done a lot more with those guys, and they were great to work with and make a great product. But it was, I just didn't have time to do it
Mm-hmm.
all. But we started trying to travel with that. And I've had a lot of different roles at Jackson Kayak specifically. They've been obviously my biggest sponsor, and probably, you know, definitely my biggest employer over the years of doing different roles with them, including the video content thing. I've been a tech rep, which basically I would go to shops in the Southeast and help them learn about the product, and, you know, do clinics and that kind of thing, make sure they had the product set up right to do well in the store. Um, so that was the idea. We'll get this motorhome, family will get in, and I can go to these locations and still have my family with me. And was finally like making enough where my wife could work kind of part time, and help, you know, raise the kids, and which is a full time job. But, you know, she wasn't having to go to do the nursing thing as much.
Right.
And so we gave it a go, and it was pretty good. We did like a Southeast tour. Um, and, visited like a lot of shops and stayed at a lot of places throughout the Southeast and had a really good time. And then she got pregnant again. So it's like, there's like 21 months between my kids. So they're not even
Wow.
2 years apart, which wasn't really 100% planned. To be completely honest. I mean, obviously we weren't taking proper steps to prevent it, but my son took a while to make happen, and my daughter did not. So she was ready, and so basically we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We didn't really buy the camper for 2 kids, but
Right.
we discussed like, oh, there's enough room, and it's a good sized motorhome, but it doesn't have bunk beds, so I'm like, all right, well, we'll figure it out. So I really wanted to do this big road trip, and I wanted to visit a lot of dealers across the country. I wanted to film, and just, I think one of my biggest passions, people are like, when fishing, they're like, no, I'm a bass guy. All I want to do is catch bass, or I'm a redfish guy, or whatever. Like, I'm an offshore guy, and they get, and that's their passion. They're so dialed into that one specific type of fishing, and that's what they're excited about. I think for me, being able to travel, it allowed me to realize that it's not the one fish species. I have my favorites, don't get me wrong. And if I'm going to choose, that's where I'm going to go. But seeing different places, eating different foods, catching different fish, and hanging out with people from all over that share the same passion, you begin to realize that there's other things that you might be interested in as well when you meet these people that, yeah, you share fishing, but now this person like cooks something you would have never tried before, or they
Hmm.
do other things, and you're like, man, I've got really good friends all over the country and really the world now, that at the drop of a hat we could be hanging out again, doing whatever. And so that's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to take my wife and like share that with her, because she'd never
Nice.
never done that, never really traveled to all these places. And she's always like, oh, you get to see all these cool places, and I'm just staying home behind. So daughter's 4 months old, my son's 2. And we just jump in and hook up my truck to the back of the camper and just take off. And we have like a loose plan, like I've mapped it out and kind of got an idea, but things change along the way. But I mean, we got to see, I don't even remember how many national parks that we stopped in. And with the motorhome, I won't say it's cheaper because the gas is expensive, but when you get out west, there's just places to pull off and camp like anywhere you want. I mean, it's all, like
Right.
we stayed at the Grand Canyon for 3 days and didn't have to pay anything to camp there because it's like forestry and you can just pull out there. And so it's just really cool to share that with her, for her to meet some of the people that I have met and become really close to along the way.
Hmm.
Um, and then just see things that neither one of us, like I'd never been to Yellowstone when we did that, never been to Joshua Tree. I had been to Carlsbad Caverns, she hadn't, and I wanted to share that with her. And um, so we just saw so many cool things. And I mean, there were times, I mean, you got 2 kids under 2 in a small box that's traveling the country. And there were things that happened along the way. Like even the day before we were supposed to leave, I was installing the kit on the front of my truck that, would allow it to be towed, and
Hmm.
putting one of the last pieces on, I had to cut a little piece of trim and I stabbed through the air conditioning
Oh,
condenser thing.
jeez.
And so like brand new truck, I mean, I'm just like, oh my God, we're going to get this done. And luckily they have one in stock at the dealership, and $1,200 later, I'm back on the road ready to go. So
Right.
I was just, things like that happen and you just push through it. But so, yeah, after that, it was, that was, I think, 4 months. Basically, I did the whole loop and then got home, dropped them off, and drove straight to ICAST.
Wow.
Last, so this was, yeah, I guess 2 years ago now. And yeah, it was a lot of travel, but it was a lot of fun. And I want to do it again. I want to do it again when the kids are a little older, so they can kind of remember more and enjoy it more, and um, that kind of thing.
I think one of the greatest things and one things I love to do is creating memories, creating unique experiences. I love that
Yeah.
when I was teaching with my choirs, taking them places, and I love traveling myself, obviously, and look forward to doing it with the Jonesin 4 tribe. But also my wife, like I get to go see these crazy and beautiful places. My brother-in-law and I went out to Utah to fish, and we did this out west circuit where we fished for sturgeon out of the kayak, and I mean we
Yeah.
hit national parks and everything out in this 4,000 mile round trip, thing that we did in crap, it was like a week. It was a whirlwind. But now, like, and that was last year. And now this summer, I told my wife, like, you need to see these things. Let's go. So this
Yeah.
summer we're hopping in the car, we're doing the road trip a little more relaxed than what we did.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do the same thing and create those memories.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's, if you get, I think, you think about, oh, I want to go here and fish. I want to go there and fish. If you can do it where it's drivable, I don't care if it's all the way on the other side of the country, and you just plan a little extra time, there'll be things you do along the way and people you meet
Hmm.
along the way, if you're open to it, that may end up becoming more or better, a better memory than the actual like destination. Or you may realize like, well, I want to go back there because that would have been really cool. And that's what I told my wife is like, it seems weird to say that at this day and time. I know people are like, oh, you don't talk to strangers, all this crazy stuff. And I don't want my kids talking to strangers, but when you're open, if somebody says, hey man, you want to come out and, we're cooking out or whatever, like, yeah, why not? Go whatever. Cause you never know who you're going to meet, what opportunity that's going to lead to. And I mean, I remember we were in the Bahamas one time and we were there to film kayaking, and there was this big Viking, which if you don't know, Viking boats are like huge
Hmm.
sport fishers, and millions of dollars. And there was a tournament at the place we were staying, and I'm like, let's just go walk the dock. And me and a couple of friends, we just started walking the dock. Next thing you know, we're on literally the biggest boat that Viking makes. It's like 90 feet long, and it's
Oh
their
my
show
gosh.
model. And they invited us on, and we're just drinking and smoking cigars and hanging out on this. I mean, I don't know how many millions of dollars. Turns out that Michael Jordan was going to be looking at this boat like the week after we were on it. And so, I mean, it was just like, you just kind of go with the flow. And then, we're hanging out on this giant boat, and it's just like, man, most people would not have even wanted to walk close to that boat,
Right.
of course they knew we were kayakers and they thought that was cool. And you're like, oh, you guys are doing this out of kayaks? That's cool. I'm like, yeah, your kayak's a little bigger than mine, but
Has a bigger motor, it can go a
yeah,
little
we could throw
faster.
my
Yeah.
kayak on this and go out
Yeah.
there if you want. Like, just
It- you
just
know,
saying.
when you're open to opportunities, and you're smart about it and safe about it with
Right.
as you see fit, it's amazing what you can experience. I mean, it's a journey along the way, right? The
Yeah.
destination can be amazing, but it's that journey along the way and what you're
Yeah.
open to that makes those memories that much more, and the memories you have with your wife now, even with the kids may or may not remember it. Your daughter won't, but your son might remember a couple of things when he's older. But then, like, just you and your wife have those memories. You can give each other a glance or this one
Right.
or two words, and you're like instant memory and flashback, which is so incredible. And I love having those moments.
And sometimes I think the hardships along the way, the things that, like we got the motorhome stuck in some sand, and it was one of those, my wife's like, don't go through there. And I'm like, it'll be fine. And, bury the thing, you know, so that was like a hard, stressful couple of hours,
Hmm.
but those memories sometimes are like, you look back on them and you laugh and you're like, you remember when we did that? That was so stupid. It sucked at the time. But then like the next day we drove through Joshua Tree, I remember I had my truck as kind of an off-road truck. So we did this desert trail. Kids were asleep in their car seat the whole way as we were bouncing around in the desert. But it was one of my favorite parts of the trip. So yeah, I mean, we struggled the night before, but it kind of made that whole thing like, you look back and the bad memories are no longer really, or the bad times are not bad memories, if that makes
Right.
sense. It's like they're just part of it, like the story. They're part of the journey, the adventure, what got you there and what got you back. And they may test you at the time, but if you come out of them, I think the whole thing makes you stronger and closer.
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, whether that's on a trip or any experience, right? Those hard times makes you stronger as long as you learn and grow from them
Yeah.
and can make it sweeter. I know that's one thing my grandpa taught me before he passed away and shared with me over and over and over again. He was a big hunter. He traveled the world hunting. It was his passion that he loved to do, and he took his wife with him. And he told me, always take Katie with you. Like if you can, take her with you, because
Yeah.
it's those memories that, the pictures, and he used to, every time we visited, he had to share his slideshow and share his adventures with us.
That's awesome that he had
And
those.
oh, it was so cool, and great to hear of his hunts in Africa and Europe, and I mean everywhere. I mean literally everywhere in the world he's been to hunt, and it was sharing those memories with his wife that
Yeah.
was most meaning. And he told me and impressed on me to do the same with my wife, and I've experienced that. I'm sharing it with all of you too, and so
Yeah.
glad you get to do that. So we'll shift it. We're coming close to our time, so I have a couple last questions for you. Looking at chasing your passions, right? So going after it full time, living that life that, of being fully in your passion, the hard times, good times, and all of that. What are some of the biggest struggles you have had? Let's narrow it down to like two or three tops, unless there's one major one. But what has been like one of the biggest struggles for you?
I mean, it's hard to say that there's like one particular thing. I mean, like I was sharing with you, having the tires blow and all that, those are moments that are struggles. But to narrow it down to one struggle, it's really not an event or a certain time. It's, I would say one of the main struggles is, like you said, judging the opportunities and trying not to overexert, like stretch yourself so thin that you end up hurting another opportunity. So you really have to look at like, what opportunities are the better opportunities and make decisions to go certain directions and that thing. That's definitely a struggle. And I think one of the other struggles has always been, the money struggle is, I've got to make enough to support my family. And I don't mean, like, oh, we got to have enough to have this, mansion, or we got to be rich, because believe me, it's paycheck to paycheck, but make enough to where you're not putting them in a bind or worrying about that. So that's been a struggle, in the sense that, some weeks, you're like, I don't know, like, and you just got to go do something on the side, or, luckily, I've worked in trade industry doing tile and contractor work and stuff, so I can build stuff, and that's helped me along the way to do side work and, make ends meet. And so that's been, probably the biggest struggle, is just trying to make sure that, I'm making enough, and I don't let, like, because I'm the guy that would do a lot of stuff for no money, right? Like, I'm just like, oh, well, if I do this for them, then that might create an opportunity down the road. But then you end
Mhm.
up getting to the point where your time is worth money, and you are decent at what you're doing, and you are valuable, and you have to make that decision. Like, look, I'm sorry, I would love to help you out, but I've got to take the paying gig over here, and sometimes you would rather do the non-paying gig from a personal standpoint, but you got to do what's right. So that's definitely one of the bigger struggles as far as that goes. And then, like I said, the biggest one in the beginning was just making the decision to go after it, and, dealing with, it's a risk with my wife and the money. It's a risk with, am I going to hurt my dad by leaving his business? And, and then staying doing this when we were going to have kids. Like, it's just, that recurring decision, like,
Mhm.
when's enough, or is it, and how to balance that. And so those are the struggles. I mean, like I said, it's not, I've always been the type of person that when a problem is presented, and usually this is a mechanical problem, not like a mental problem like we're talking about right now, but like if I get a flat, or like, the awning's broke on the camper and I can't get it to go in, or something like that's going on, and I know I've got to go wherever I'm trying to get. And like, you can't just throw in the towel. Like, you have to figure out how to fix whatever it is, at least enough to get you to that next step. Whether it's, like I've had these situations where I couldn't get the slide to go in on the camper
Mhm.
when I needed to drive 500 miles that day, and things like that. And you're like, I can't call a mechanic. I got to figure this out. And so it's the same idea of, I have to do this.
Mhm.
So not being a solution is not an option. Like, I've got to figure it out, whether it's right or wrong, or if there's an easier way, doesn't matter. I've got to do it and get it done. And you got to do that same thing, I think, with all the other challenges. You just got to go, this is a challenge, but if I don't push through it or figure out a way to make it work, then I am just giving up. And if you remove that as an option, if you remove allowing someone else to do it for you or figuring out a way, like, not saying you don't accept help when it's given, but if you're at a point in your life and you got to either go forward or not go forward, and this challenge is in your way, not going forward should not be an option. You're just like, I gotta go, like, I gotta do this, so whatever I need to do to fix this, and then you figure it out and you move forward.
I forget where I heard this quote or who said it, but everything is figure outable, right?
Yeah,
You can figure out anything, and usually through that struggle, through that stress, that the joy afterwards is that much better because of that struggle, or at least you've grown in some way, shape, or form.
right.
So I'm gonna change it now and use that joy. So with this whole thing, through those struggles that you've had, what have been some of the biggest joys of chasing your passions?
I think it's when, I mean, for example, the way you kind of started out this thing, when you hear somebody say like that they've watched you or known what you've been doing and that you've inspired them in any way, whether it's little or big, if you've impressed something upon someone to chase their passion or do something or step out of the box that they normally might not have done if it hadn't been for you, that's a huge, like, accomplishment, because it's not what I did, to say it. Selfish was why I started this, because I wanted to do it, right? I wanted to go and chase my passion. I never had like the thought in my head, well, if I can affect somebody in a positive way by doing this, and I should have, but I didn't. But then when you see that you have affected someone in a positive way, all of a sudden now you're like, I need to share this with other people as much as I can. And I've always tried to answer those questions on Facebook and talk to people. And, if they ask, how do I get into this, or how do I do this, whatever it is, if I can share that knowledge, my wife's like, you're never off, you're on your phone all the time. And I probably am too much, but, I enjoy, if I can affect someone in a positive way or help them, whether it's just tying a knot or catch a fish or, learn how to use a camera a certain way, whatever it is, if I do that and then I can see that or hear about that, even if it was unintended, that is definitely the biggest joy for sure. Because like I said, I love to fish. Obviously everybody knows me, that's my biggest passion. But really just being outside and meeting people that love the outdoors and love whatever it is they're passionate about. If they're as passionate about it as I am, what I am passionate about, then we have something in common, and just being able to share that and inspire each other and grow. That's where the joy is at, for sure.
I love it. It's amazing the people we can inspire just by living our lives and chasing our passions,
Right.
whether we realize it or not. How can people find you, learn more about you? What's the best way people can hook up and follow your adventures?
Well, I'm during this COVID thing, I've done some home projects and gotten really slow on my Instagram and Facebook feeds. But you can follow me on Instagram at Jameson Redding, and on Facebook, Jameson Redding. But on Instagram, it's all lowercase, one word, just Jameson Redding. And then, I do a lot of the video work. So I know a lot of people do a really good job, like Robert Field and some others, Drew Gregory, they all do a really good job of filming themselves. I typically film other people and then behind the camera. So if you'd like to see some of the work that I've done, Jackson Kayak, most of their promo videos and lifestyle videos I've been involved in, and then bending branches to, like, just doing work for other people there. But you can see some of the cool stuff that we get to do as we as a team at Jackson work together and produce the trips and videos that we do from the trips that we take. So
Awesome. Oh, folks, I will make sure that all the links to his Instagram, Facebook, and we'll see if we can even get some of his favorite videos links in the show notes. So if you're curious for those show notes, or you want to read about this whole interview, just head to my website, spencermjones.com. Just go to the Jonesin Forest Show and find this killer episode with Jameson writing about him chasing his passions, and you'll get all those links and all that good stuff. Jameson, thank you so much for being on this show. It is incredible to have you here, man.
It's been awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. I'm looking forward to getting together and chasing some fish and creating some new memories. And who knows, maybe, getting dragged an hour out offshore again.
It's been a while. We need to do it.
Definitely, man. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. If you like this show, please let us know. Leave a comment, share it out with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, folks, we will catch you all later.